I wrote my sister in New York and told her, I said, sis, I want to go to school, college. And she decided she would help me. But tuition when I started school in 1957 was $50 a semester. And then I got a job as a night janitor in a church and made money. In my last 2 years of college, ROTC, they would pay you money to be in ROTC. So, all those things I did, to help get through and make it out. I would commute every day to West Virginia State College. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and I did enough to become a second lieutenant in the United States Army. And after training, they sent me to Fort Ord, California. And that's where I did my 2 years plus a few months. And when I got out of the service, I was a first lieutenant. Well, I went to West Virginia and I was trying to get a job, and I applied for one job as a claims adjuster in an insurance company. And it didn't do well, I didn't get the job, and so I was talking on the phone with a friend of mine, and she and another girlfriend were living in an apartment up there. They said, well, why don't you come up here and get a job? So I got on the train, came to Washington, D.C., and applied for it, found a job in no time, working in a summer camp program at Harrison Elementary School at 13th and B Street Northwest. And while I was working there that summer, the principal discovered that I had a degree in elementary education and wanted to know, do you want a job teaching? And I said, can I start tomorrow? And so I applied for that job and got a job teaching at Harrison Elementary School in Washington, D.C. in 1965. So my goal was to try to help people, get out of high school. I used a GI Bill to go to Federal City College, and it was a degree in counseling psychology. I was working for Youth Service Administration in D.C. I was doing social work type stuff in the community. But see, it was never an 8-hour-a-day job for me, and sometimes it wasn't a 5-day-a-week job. Sometimes I worked on the Saturdays trying to help families and do things, I was paying a lady to teach a kid how to read out of what money I was making, She was a school teacher, and good at it, and I was paying her to help these kids learn to read, and I did that 2 or 3 kids, and while I was at Federal City College, you'd be discussing things in class, and sometimes I would be a little over-aggressive in explaining stuff. So this lady, who was a member of All Souls Church, came up to me one day and said, well, look, would you come to my church and help me with my youth group, grades 9 through 12? And I said, yeah, fine with me, so, and she was Caucasian. The church was well integrated, and like I tell people a lot of time, and the music was great and everything, and I said, Lord, this must be the way heaven's going to be, It's not segregated and all that, it's integrated. People love each other, do all those kind of things. And the man was not trying to preach a sermon for me to go to heaven, It was a sermon about helping people here on earth and doing the things you can do here, to make life better for other people. And also church, they just help people outside the church who were not even members. So when I got to All Souls, it just stuck with me. And so I went to divinity school and graduated from Howard Divinity School in May of '89. It wasn't easy. You know, you have to have some kind of skill, a little intelligence, which I have a little, you know, that kind of thing, because most of the Unitarian universities are bright people and well-read, good writers. That's one of the biggest barriers that I think I've ever had a problem overcoming, was becoming a Unitarian minister. But one of the things that has helped me with religion is the works of Dr. Howard Thurman, who prolific writer about religion and about Jesus, and I mean, he has had a great influence on the way I look at religion and stuff. And I think a lot of people need to read, just try to understand what he was saying, what he was doing, and his influence on religion. You know, it's how you live your life here on earth, really. I did. As a matter of fact, I was the first person to become a Unitarian minister in the community ministry program. They didn't have people being ordained to become community ministers or be fellowship to become Unitarian ministers. I was the first person to be fellowship as a community minister in the whole denomination. See, I had worked in just about every inner city community in D.C. I worked in Fort Southeast. I left there and went to work at Montana Terrace, which is about 8 or 9 blocks from Edgewood. But I had caseloads in all of those communities, kids on my caseload. And I mean, I just saw people suffering, having a hard time. I just decided that I need to find a way to help these people. I was doing the best I can, but I needed another way to do it where I could impact more people and help more young people and families. And that's why I decided that, you know, going to divinity school, graduating, and getting back into a community to service it. Yeah, I thought that out, you know, that this is the way I need to do it. And when I first started in the community, I wore a collar. You know, let people know I'm a minister, you know, that kind of thing, you know. And after they got to know me and everything, then I decided I'd just go in as another person. But everybody knew I was Rev then. After finishing divinity school, chaplaincy program at over there in Southeast, St. Luke's Hospital, and then I started looking for a place, you know, to put my program. And I went back. I wanted to do it at Montana Terrace. Couldn't find space over there, so I'm walking around trying to say, where can I put this? So I ran into a policeman who I had befriended when I was working in Edgewood, in Montana Terrace. And he said, "Man, there's some guys over in Edgewood. They have some property over there. They might let you share the space that they have." So I went over to talk to them, and they worked every day. So they said, "Yeah, man, come on," you know. So I went over and started helping kids after school with homework and trying to give them a cookie, and I'd buy ham and bread and fix them a little sandwich and give them something to drink after school. So kids they started coming to get something to eat. But when they started doing better in school, they started coming for both the study hall aspect of it as well as the food, you know. And then it just started growing and growing and growing. And had a young man who grew up in the community, and he had played football in college but got his leg messed up, so he wanted to teach. He said, "Rev, why don't you start a football program?" So, you know, fine with me. So got some money together, bought uniforms, and did all those kind of things, and we started a football program. A couple of years later, after he left, Rodney Cephas, who works for Beacon House now, loves some football. I mean, he sleeps it, I believe. And he was working for the recreation department in the community at Edgewood Recreation Center. And he was talking to the kids, would go down there, and he was saying, "Man, I need some football equipment." So they said, "Well," the kid said, "I know where you can get some football equipment. Go up there, Rev got it." So So I said, well, you go back and tell him that Rev not only has football equipment, but he has football players, because the kids who had played were still in the community. And we started a football program. The Unitarians had built Beacon House. When I started Beacon House, you know, I was just by myself for about 2 months, and then they started coming, helping with homework. They did programs like arts and crafts program on Saturdays and things like that, and they would write checks and stuff to help us out. You have to have people, you know, who have resources and stuff that they can support and do what you need done in organizations like this. And like I say, the only thing that has saved Beacon House are the Unitarians around the metropolitan community, Washington, D.C. I mean, to me, it's just outstanding, you know, the way they do that. Well, I'm trying now to find a way to get some money so that I can just give it to Beacon House. Like I say, my house will go to them. Well, the Unitarians, they do give, you know, but I mean, they're not billionaires in me, you know. Yeah. But they give what they can and do as much as they can. But maybe, hopefully, that the Unitarian headquarters up in Boston and different places will realize how important what we do here is. We'll have a good future because we have so many young men now who are going into professional sports and doing things like that. And I think we have a few who are going to really make a lot of money. And I think they will give back to Beacon House when they start making that money.